Hey, welcome back to Warhammer Station. My name is Colin. I've got a 4th of July video for you, just so you have some content today. And what I want to talk about is some more World Eater stuff. It's the army I play. It's the army I have the most fun playing in past editions. And I got another game in against Dark Angels, but this game only lasted to turn 2 because it's a whole combination of things, in which I'll get into. I'll talk about the list here in just a minute. I didn't take any pictures because most of the models are unpainted, and I didn't. Most of my opponents' models, I think my models actually look really nice, but there are some key moments which I'll get into that didn't translate to a successful strategy, which I'll get into. And so I want to talk about that game. I want to talk about the lists, and then I want to talk about what my response over that. I've only gotten in 2 games with World Eaters versus Space Marines, and so I want to apply some lessons learned to a couple other lists. So this is the Dark Angels list I played. Azrael, Captain Terminator armor, 2 apothecaries, one with this stubborn tenacity, and the Terminator had the Heavenfall blade, an Intercessor squad, Deathwing command squad, Hellblaster squad, another Hellblaster squad, Incursor squad, Ravenwing Dark Shroud, Sternguard veterans, and a Vindicator. He had to proxy most of these models, but it was still a fun game. Now, this is the list I used: Angron, Lord Invocatus, World Eaters, Demon Prince, Jackals, each a 20-man squad, and 8 bound, and a Not Despoiler. So here's my philosophy with this list. For one, I just wanted to see. I knew he was taking a bunch of infantry, and I just wanted to see what exactly this Not Despoiler with double Gatling cannon was going to do. And if you notice, in his list, he had the Dark Shroud. And between shooting at stuff in cover, which I'm shooting over all these ruins and stuff, so they're obscured or whatnot, or they're in terrain, and even with the amount of shots, with him, and I wasn't hitting odds. I was hitting right around 50% or less than 50% of shots, even hitting on a 3+. And then wounded on 3s, it still translated down into, like, the 2 times I shot it, it got down to 5 wounds. Like, I shot a squad at each. First one I thought it was going to be like a devastating thing, shooting at 2 different squads. I think I shot at the Incursors to try and so they wouldn't get the +1 to hit. And I'm like, well, this will wipe out as a Space Marine squad, no problem. And I only got 5 wounds. Well, they still get a 3+ save because of cover, or even a 4+, and he rolled well. I think I killed a total of 3 Marines with this thing. So much for this being an infantry killer. And, I'm kind of at a loss. If this thing can't kill infantry, if you're killing 3 Marines in a blow, what is this thing for? I don't see any difference with the battle cannons that much. It's going to wound them on 2s, but it's still going to hit the same, and they're still going to get the benefits of cover. And I'm just not sure on the knot. On taking a single knot, I can taking a whole army of knots, especially Imperial ones. It's probably really good. So I had a wombo combo with the 8 bound, 2 Jackal squads, the Demon Prince, and the Lord Invocatus, right? And this strategy is one of the primary ones in the World Eaters list. It is it's one of the primary. So this strategy is one of the primary ones in the World Eaters list. It has to do with you know, the Demon Prince able to provide that 4+ invul to everything basically. Getting the scout moves for 20-man blob squads. Getting Invocatus and the A-bound up there to just, they're getting the scout moves. They're getting you roll up 2+ move on the table. And so I had an easy, he lined up right on the line. I assaulted his Terminators thinking the 2 damage would just annihilate these guys. And, without stratagems, it would have. So one of the stratagems for the Dark Angels, no, it's unbreakable lines, reduce a damage characteristic. So a lot of armies have like Armor of Contempt or all these other stuff. And with Azure on the table, getting all this stuff, I killed 3 Terminators out of 10. And he only killed 2 Exalted 8-bound, but I don't have 10 guys to come across and fight back. I don't have 7 guys. I have 4 guys and an Invocatus left. And so, they're able to fall back with no consequence. Most stuff can, and then I've got 2 Hellblaster squads able to just unload on that HQ and stuff, and the Demon Prince. So the idea for this list to just run up willy-nilly into the jaws of the enemy, that only works if you can do damage. If you can't do damage, it's not worth doing. And so, as it is against Space Marines, it'd probably work against a bunch of other armies and stuff. But between Overwatch, stratagems, a bunch of other things, it's not a viable tactic. You have to be able to put some whatever you're assaulting on the back foot. And if they didn't have that unbreakable line stratagem, I might have done it. But that's not the case. And we don't have any other, World Leaders don't have any modifications to AP. Before there was a stratagem to improve the AP. And it wouldn't have mattered against Terminators, but against a bunch of other things, it would have made a big difference. So I still think in some cases it's a viable strategy. It just has to be executed against a different army. You can't do that against 2 Dark Angels. So with the Jackals, there's a lot of guys there with the 4+ invul. I figured, and the 5 Feel No Pain after the blessings. I thought it was going to be a really powerful, just hard to remove tar pit. Just do some, and then with that many Jackals hitting a Marine unit with 2 Dishonored in there with Skull Smashers, they get like 8 or you get 10 Skull Smasher attacks on the charge. Well, that's all fine and good until you only hit twice with Skull Smashers, and then you only wound once. So 20 guys, I think 18 of them were able to make combat. Maybe 16, I'm not sure. I killed 1.5 Space Marines with and so, I mean, that might be a little bit on the other end of the bell curve, but it's just not that tactic of, the idea behind the strategy was to have this massive amount of close combat firepower, walk up, control objectives, and make sticky objectives, and just be this massive tar pit for Angron to swoop in and clean stuff up. Well, when you kill 3 Terminators, 2 Space Marines, 3 Terminators and 4 Space Marines, this whole force, that plan's a failure. And I think if that exists on the spectrum of possibilities, it's almost a failed strategy or tactic, right? So part and parcel of this list is a failure. And then as far as the Dark Angels goes, the Terminators are hard to remove, which they should be. The Hellblasters put out insane amounts of firepower because of Oath of Moment and some other stuff. The Vindicator can do pretty well. The Stern Guard and the MVP for this thing was a Ravenwing Darkshroud. That is why the Knight didn't do well, is because he couldn't shoot anything. He hit so few times that it wasn't worth anything. And Apothecaries being able to bring stuff back is phenomenal. It really is. I think after all my stuff was wiped out, I was testing out that strategy. I moved Angron up, annihilated a Hellblaster squad, and then called the game after that, because he was just going to walk over, murder Angron, and I had all that I had left at that point was a few jackals. That wasn't gonna make the round. They're not going to make the cut. So that's the takeaway from this list, is from that tactic of the World Eaters, is the A-Bound can't do it, and if they can't do it, the Berserkers can't do it, the Jackals can't do it. I don't have the models. I think the Terminators would fare a little better. They're going to move just a tad slower. They can move 7. They could get the scout move from Invocatus. They could move 7 with the stuff, and maybe get a charge off. I don't know if I necessarily want to bank on that. I don't have the models. I wouldn't mind proxying some stuff. But between the 2+ armor save, the higher toughness, and the good weapons in close combat, but they might be the same. It's just there's more models there to do more damage. But then again, the stuff that comes back and can hurt them, they have the 4+ invul built in without having to rely on a Demon Prince. They're going to have the Fennel Pain. They're going to have character support, stuff like that. So this is my response to this. And so I played another game with, if you recall, my previous battle report had 3 Lords of Skulls. And so their firepower was really lackluster. I took the Skull Hurlers, doing 2d6. So before the Lone Star Open, I want to get another game in with at least this list. And I want to stick with Angron because he's paying so well. He does really well. And I want to stick with the Jackals for the sticky objective. They'll start on the home objective, move out, do some other stuff. The Lords of Skulls, dropping down to 2 of those. And switching to the Hades Gatling Cannon. There's sustained hits on this Gatling Cannon. So because it's so ineffective at killing vehicles anyway at range, I might as well do more shots and hopefully do more against infantry. I want to add a Forge Fiend, and with the 3 Ectoplasm Cannons. They're strength 10, AP -3, 3 damage. But the downside is they're D3 shots apiece. So 3 D3 shots, that's still a potential for 9 shots on that rare roll. Maybe back him up with Angron's rerolls, and it's not going to be that big of a deal. And then lastly, throwing in these 3 War Dog Brigands. I'm not particularly happy about having to ally in some stuff, but in a world where you have shooty things that are the cream of the crop, it is what it is. So what I've seen that is successful outside of stuff like Eldar, there's Imperial Knights, and I'm not saying any of this stuff is A tier. It's probably D tier when it gets right down to it. But having just all this high toughness stuff, what we live in a world, and my meta is Space Marine meta. So I'm constantly having to contend with Oath of Moment stuff. And what having this high toughness stuff does is allow the whole Space Marine army has to focus on just one target for their Oath of Moment thing. And that's fine. I'm fine with stuff dying or whatnot. But since they have to commit their whole army to it, they're not spreading that love around, and I can last, score up some points, do what I need to do, and just knock stuff out. And I think what's built into these Lords of Skulls is the tank shock stratagem, and they get, what is that, 16 attacks, 16 dice rolls with 5s. Whatever you're running that thing into that you get to pop the tank shock on is doing their 6 mortals, no doubt. And which that thing, the cleaver, I mean, you could take out some Terminators pretty easy. You can take out this and that pretty easy. I think it's going to be something that's halfway decent. And then, of course, the Brigands, they get their high toughness. They have lots of OC. They have really good shots. When they shoot the closest, they hit on 2s. When they shoot the closest model, they gain an armor penetration characteristic. There's 12 shots on their gun. So, I mean, it's only 1 damage, but it's no slouch. Combine that with the melted floor, splitting that fire out there. It's not a shabby thing. The downside is, I guess, with this list, mainly, is that I have most of this painted. I don't even own a Forge Fiend. I still got to get these things painted between then and now. And I got to finish a Jackal squad that's mostly done. I've been working on. So, I mean, that's one idea from an idea of like being successful with World Leaders. Because, like I said, doing that jump up move, having just a bunch of infantry against Space Marines, they're not going to live between Oath of Moment and all this other stuff. The other list I'm thinking about running, this is everything that I have painted and looks really nice and will look cool on the table. Angron, Karn, which really I want to swap out for the Master of Executions. He's obviously the better choice to go with Berserkers, but I don't even own the model, let alone have it painted. Lord Immocatus, 2 Jackal squads, Khorne Berserkers, 8 bound, Exalted 8 bound, and a Land Raider. So this list is the same as the move forward list, and doing the dice rolls to get into combat and hoping for that first turn and all this other stuff. And I don't know if it would do well depending on what I play, but I just want to live in the moment and have this Land Raider move up with its +2 move, and have the guys disembark and get a charge off. The Khorne Berserkers, they're just too expensive for what they do, but they can do some real damage, but they don't have the longevity or anything like that, right? So, I mean, the reason I take this list primarily, it's going to look good on the table. It's going to look real cinematic. But with the way the edition is right now, even though by the time I go to my event, they're going to have a lot of stuff fixed, it'd be a fun list. With the Exalted 8 bound doing the rapid ingress stratagem, put them in a terrain piece so they still can't be shot at. They're still infantry, so they can march out of there and kill whatever it is. They're going to get their move on your turn. It's a fun sounding thing that is going to look good on the table, but not super perform. So that's my problem, is balancing performance versus fluffiness, right? It's always a challenge of me personally. Obviously I'm not playing Eldar, or I don't even have Gene Stealer Colts. I do have an Eldar army. I'm really not interested in playing that. They're at like a 70% win rate. It's kind of crazy. And I watched a game in between making this last video and this one, and the Space Marine player was totally wiped out by turn 2. He was doing 66 mortals to whole squads, and that was even based off of luck rolls, or whatever he had attached that could change the dice to a 6 besides the fate dice, right? It's just crazy how that got into the game and wasn't even checked. But I mean, whatever. Here we are. I'm going to have fun, play a game, meet new people, and hopefully in whatever little balance pass these things will get something up. You know, like I said in that last video, the world leaders aren't even on the list of what their win percentage is. People aren't even taking them. So I'm really leaning in the favor of taking the stuff that looks really, really nice on the table and playing a game with that and having a lot of fun with it. So, you know, as far as other strategies goes, I mean, there's a lot to it. But it just really depends on what's across the table from you. It's super fun with world leaders when you do those scout moves, get that first turn. You know, as far as I'm concerned, when I ran that Lord Invocatus and 8-bound, and then 40 guys up into his grill, even though it all bounced off because of that strat, it still did. I still had tons of fun. It was still really neat to see what all it could do. And I'm thinking what I should do is be a little more aggressive with Karn or with Angron. And you know, it just really sucks to put like a really expensive centerpiece model out there just for it to die and do nothing. And so by hiding in the back, but you know, so on one hand, the Demon Prince and Angron would have been up there to do some damage because you can only reliably kill one of them, maybe. With 2 Hellblaster squads and Terminators charging, I bet he could do just fine. But yeah, it's a shame that the stuff is so, you know, there's so many stratagems out there that are defensive, and with the world leader stratagems, it's extremely hard for these stratagems to come into effect. Because look at this, fight phase, and then it's just battle shocks after that at -1. So and that's in your next command phase. So it's not even on the turn that it's going to make a difference when they fight back. Right? For the Skull Throne, fight phase. So that's 2 out of the 6 stratagems that only kick off in the fight phase. And yay, I get +1 to wound, right? For the Blood God, fight phase. There's half of the stratagems that are only kicking off. So you know, no defensiveness. And this is, I have to actually kill something for this to go off. I think this is a good tactic in theory. If you get Angron run up there who doesn't need any modification on stuff to kill a unit, and then you reroll that blessing so your big squads get lethal hits and sustain hits. And even then, that's, you know, you're looking at 4 extra auto wounds or something like that, and 3 or 4 extra hits. It's almost not worth it in some cases. Corner Care's not. Fight phase. So, was that the 4th one? Yep. We're at 75% of them, only in one phase of the game that these stratagems have any effect. Subtract 1 from the damage, and that's only when you're being hit. So I mean, that's good, but it's 2 CP. It's crazy. Blood Offering, any phase, and so this one's like the most valuable stratagem almost anywhere, because you can die on a unit and on an objective and still control it. It's one of the best stratagems in the game. And then Apoplectic Frenzy, a movement phase. So this one's really good if you're lucky enough to roll the advance and charge, which it's not that hard to do. But there's a lot of cool stuff that can happen. You know, you got like those Terminator blobs being able to advance and charge, and then you get one of them an automatic 6. These two are really the almost, the best ones, but every other, it fits with World Eater's lore, but it makes for impracticality in the game. Instead of having no defensive stuff, they should be able to have some sort of mechanic, like the justification for having reducing AP against it or reducing stuff at range should be like they shrug off wounds or something. Old editions of Berserkers had feel no pain, and so we got that kind of in the blessings, but there should be a better buff to that because they don't have any ability. There's no way to bring units back. There's no way to get extra CP. There's no way to improve incoming at ranged AP. We're assault and stuff, so we're going to be out in the open anyway. There's no way to reduce damage in the shooting phase. It's a little bit over the top. So, those aren't complaints. It's really just a statement of facts. We got to work with what we got to work with, and I'm confident that in a balanced pass, whatever Games Workshop does with World Eaters is going to elevate us in a way that makes us more successful and more deadly on the table. Anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say about World Eaters today. I'm really looking forward to getting in more games. I'm having a lot of fun with all of these guys. It's I really get an adrenaline rush out of moving stuff across the table and beating people up. It's a lot of fun. But my only caveat is that if I'm able to do that, I should kill whatever I touch, and that's currently not the case. But yeah, thanks for watching this video. Thanks for enjoying my content. Leave a like, leave a subscribe. Come join us in Discord, wherever else you want to talk about stuff. I've got my battle tokens for sale on my website, warhammerstation.com. I've got a lot of stuff coming down the pipe. Terrain is in the process of being made. I'm so happy for this terrain pack coming out. And we're going to have something really soon. As soon as I get the terrain made, I'm going to host an event. And we're going to have so much fun doing all this stuff. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being part of the community. Y'all have a great day.